Picture this. It's late October 2025, and for all intents and purposes, the U.S. government is closed for business. The gears in Washington have ground to a halt, all because of a huge budget dispute, and the air is just thick with accusations. So let's dive into what's really going on behind all the headlines. And at the very heart of this whole stalemate is this one really explosive claim from the Speaker of the House. It's a powerful soundbite for sure, and it's pretty much the main justification being used for the entire shutdown.
But that's the big question, right? Is that claim actually based in fact, or is it just political rhetoric designed to fire people up? To figure that out, we've got to peel back the layers and look at what the budget proposals actually say.
And this really lays out the disconnect. On the left, you have the claim we just heard. But on the right, you have the reality, according to policy analysts. See, this isn't about creating new benefits for non-citizens at all. It's about continuing existing support for Americans by extending subsidies from the Affordable Care Act and stopping some planned cuts to Medicaid. And here is the absolute core of the issue. The Affordable Care Act, the very law at the center of this debate, explicitly prohibits federal money from being used to cover undocumented individuals. It's not some loophole or a weird interpretation. It is written black and white right into the law itself. Okay, so you're probably wondering, if the federal law is so crystal clear, where's all this confusion coming from? Well, it seems to be coming from what's happening at the state level. Some states, like California, use their own state money, not federal money, to fund their Medicaid programs for residents, regardless of their immigration status. But that's a state decision, with state dollars, and it's being mixed up with federal ACA funding, which really muddies the waters in this whole debate.
But look, this isn't just about political spin. These proposed policy changes have very real consequences for very real people. So let's untangle the numbers and see what these cuts would actually mean for American families.
The big headline number that's being pushed is this one, $46 billion. That's the amount of money they say will be saved over the next 10 years if these healthcare subsidies are cut. And you know, on paper, that sounds like a huge chunk of change. But a number on a spreadsheet is one thing. The real question is, who ends up paying the price for that $46 billion in savings? It's so important to look past the balance sheet and understand the actual human impact here. And here's the first part of that cost. Those savings would come from as many as 12 million Americans losing their health insurance over the next decade. In fact, about 5 million of them could lose their coverage almost immediately.
And what about the folks who do manage to hang on to their insurance? Well, their premiums could actually more than double. This is a really crucial point. The policy doesn't just affect people who become uninsured, it hits the insured right where it hurts, their wallets.
Let's try to put that premium increase into perspective. If you're a family paying, say, $12,000 a year for coverage, doubling it means you somehow have to find another $12,000. And as this quote really powerfully illustrates, that's not just pocket change. That's the cost of a used car. That's a full year's rent in many parts of the country. It's a truly life-altering amount of money.
Okay, so now we need to zoom out. To really understand this whole debate over $46 billion in cuts, we have to put it into the context of other government spending. And specifically, we're going to look at recent foreign aid. And this, wow, this visual puts it all into stark contrast. That bar on the left, that's the $46 billion we're told we have to save on American healthcare over 10 years. The bar on the right, that's almost $150 billion spent on foreign aid in just the last 3 years. So where did that $150 billion even go? Well, the vast majority of it, more than $134 billion, has been allocated to Ukraine since 2022. Another $14 billion has gone to Israel. These are the hard numbers pulled right from the budget. I mean, just let that sink in for a second. In just 3 years, the U.S. has spent more than 3 times the amount of money abroad that it's proposing to save by cutting healthcare at home over an entire decade. And here's a little layer of irony that's kind of hard to ignore. Israel, which is a major recipient of U.S. aid, provides universal healthcare for its own citizens. Meanwhile, back in the United States, the country providing that aid, we're debating a policy that could leave 12 million of our own citizens without any coverage at all.
So, all of this brings us to a really fundamental question about what our national priorities are. Because when you lay the numbers out like this, the debate really shifts from being about affordability to being about choices.
So, what's a way forward here? The source material we're looking at suggests a possible 3-step solution. First, bring back those enhanced ACA subsidies that make insurance affordable for millions. Second, have an executive order issued that clearly separates federal and state Medicaid rules to get rid of all this political confusion. And third, take a hard look at foreign aid and rebalance it to better prioritize needs here at home.
When you boil it all down, this entire debate really just comes down to three numbers. A proposed cut of $46 billion from healthcare here at home, a recent spend of $150 billion on foreign aid, and the 12 million Americans whose health coverage is just hanging in the balance.
And that leaves us with one last big question to think about. When you're dealing with a budget that runs into the trillions of dollars, the choices you make, what you choose to fund and what you choose to cut, they don't just reflect fiscal policy, they reflect your values, and they define your priorities as a nation.